many siblings and was responsible for taking care of them a lot of the time. So she acted like a mother figure and had a lot of responsibility growing up. She is Mormon and she lived and lives in Utah. She met her husband, Kevin, when she went to Utah State University when she was 18 years old. And after 2 weeks of knowing each other, they got married. I don't think this is very strange because they are Mormon, and you are really encouraged to marry as soon as you meet somebody that is going to make a good husband. But I'm not sure about how devoted they were to their religion, besides the fact that they did go to church. At 20 years old, she was pregnant with her first and oldest child, Sherry. She always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom from childhood, so that's what she did. Kevin worked full-time as a college professor at Brigham Young University, BYU. And I heard that he was often going on work trips, so he was not present at the family home, sometimes for a longer period of time. You can check out the professor reviews that students leave these teachers at some sort of website, and according to students, Kevin used to throw things at them when he got angry. He used to yell at the students. He was racist, homophobic, allegedly, according to the students that he taught, and he was abusive. It is said that he saw one of his students once outside of class doing a TikTok dance, and he got so angry at this that he dropped this person out of the class by failing them. So clearly he has some sort of, things going on. When it comes to Ruby, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she had other siblings, as I mentioned before, other sisters, and they already had their own YouTube channels before Ruby started hers. She actually got the inspiration to start her own channel from her sisters. So in 2012, she started 8 Passengers because they had 6 kids, and Ruby and Kevin. The content was all about her life, family vlogs, daily vlogs, giving parenting advice to the moms and dads that would watch their channel. But there was also a lot of questionable videos that she would upload on there. One of her first videos, or her first video, was of their family going to a Chick-fil-A opening in Utah, or wherever they lived. And in the vlog she says that they're there at the opening because they support marriage between a woman and a man, so they're openly homophobic. And I guess at this time also it was very controversial about Chick-fil-A, because it came out that the owner of Chick-fil-A, who is Christian, was supporting the Conservative Party and funneling money for laws to be made against gay people, like laws against gay marriage. Over the years, she filmed everything. She filmed even the most private moments with her kids, such as when she explained to her child that one of their family members had passed away, and she filmed the child's reaction. She filmed her 11-year-old daughter shaving her legs for the first time. She filmed that same child talking about the story of her first kiss, of some dark places. When her daughter spilled some nail polish on one occasion on the bathroom floor. By the way, you can remove nail polish very easily from surfaces like that with acetone. She made her not wear nail polish for a month, saying that it was her favorite thing to do in the world. So that was kind of the early signs where you can see the weird punishments that you would give these children. Mind you, the stain was on this like janky, disgusting rug. It was like old, like it was so cheap looking, and the stain was tiny, like a little drop. So it was such an exaggeration. She also mentioned on camera that the discipline happens off camera. Another time, when her primary school age daughter, she was like probably 7 years old or something, forgot to pack her lunch for school. The teacher calls Ruby to see if she can come to the school to drop off her lunch because, you know, the child forgot our lunch and she's gonna go hungry. Ruby said that her daughter is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, so the natural outcome is that she's going to go hungry. I believe she later said that the school was too inconvenient to drive to because it was too far away. Okay. And there were so many concerning punishments. There were an abuse that was being documented every single day by Ruby herself. One of these times was when the youngest boy forgot his socks outside in the yard, and Ruby got really angry at him and told him to drop down and do 10 push-ups. The older boy, I guess, was getting into trouble, according to Ruby. One of the reasons why is he was playing pranks on his younger brother. Because of this, Kevin and Ruby decided that they will send the older son to a wilderness camp. Mind you, the son, who's older, was 12 years old at the time when they sent him to this wilderness camp where he had no means of communicating with his parents other than sending a letter to them once a week, and same with the parents. And you know, the adults there can forge the letters if the child's saying like something is going on that is not right. And it was some sort of thing like they had to live with the things on their backs, and in the video where they talk about why they sent him away, they were talking about how he needed discipline and how he needed to mature. He's 12. So he went to this wilderness camp, he came back, and I guess after some time he played another prank on his brother, and it is super like, it's nothing, it's so harmless, it's so funny. He pranked his brother by saying that they're going to Disneyland. So the little brother woke up, got ready for Disneyland, but obviously they're not going there, and Ruby got super angry about this. And to punish the older brother for playing this harmless prank, he made him sleep on a beanbag or a hardwood floor, because I've heard both mentioned from her in video, for 7 months. So for the kid that said, we're gonna go to Disneyland, pranked you, she made him sleep on the floor for 7 months. use their like mobile phones and stuff, or iPads. In one of the occasions, she went to holiday with Kevin and told the two youngest children to not use any iPads. And obviously they did use the iPads, the parents aren't home. When she found out about this, she also punished them and said that they're being selfish. And I think continually you will see that the two youngest children were getting horrible treatment. Everyone was already getting horrible treatment, but I feel like especially the youngest boy was getting treated extremely horribly, like she had something out for them. At one of her vlogs, she went hysterical when her daughter's school dance team was going to dance to a TikTok dance, and it was no sexual moves at all. But she made Kevin go in front of the school board, and I'm sure Kevin went willingly, and he said that they are dancing to pornographic music. And basically like argued, you're making our kids, dance to pornographic music. When one of their children was a baby, the youngest boy, he was 6 months old, she said that he fell off the sofa. Okay, and apparently it took her a week to get his injury checked out, which was he broke his femur, which baby's bones are like very malleable, so it's very hard to break your bones when you're a baby because you're like growing super fast. So I don't understand how the baby just fell off the sofa and broke his femur, which is the hardest bone in your body. And it took her over a week to get him to a doctor. The children also said that they had no friends. Like on camera, the oldest boy was talking about how they had no friends at school. Nobody would talk to them because obviously they were getting bullied because of their weird parents and all these rules that they had. And she basically was just like, oh, that's so vulnerable of you to just share that on camera. So all of these vlogs got them millions of subscribers and millions of dollars, as told by Ruby herself. And mind you, she's Mormon, so she does go to church, and people that went to her church said that she became a celebrity and that people at church treated her like that. She would receive gifts, she would get paid shout outs. So basically the Mormon church would allegedly give her money to talk about the church. She would do Christmas campaigns with them, and it is suspected that the Mormon church had paid for her house in Utah, and it's a huge house. People increasingly got concerned about the punishments and parenting of the children, so they started a petition on change.org so that CPS would visit the family and do a slowly, because of the hate, their videos started to slow down. And at some point, she stopped posting. And then, in 2019, Ruby Franke met Jody Hildebrand. Jody Hildebrand was a self-proclaimed, I would say, therapist slash counselor. And she started a company called Connections with an X. She was previously fired from her job and was put on house arrest, narrowly avoiding going to actual prison. She was on house arrest for 18 months because she was trying to therapize people, and she argued that her patients weren't healing. So Ruby got in touch with Jody initially because she wanted counseling for the older son, the one that they sent to the wilderness camp, the one that was playing pranks. How terrible. And Connections was supposed to provide self-help, therapy, counseling, marriage counseling, so everything under the sun. And when Jody and Ruby met, Ruby decided that she's going to become a mental fitness trainer as well. Jody's clients were also being referred to by the Mormon church. Apparently, the Mormon church was paying for people to go to Jody and to get therapy and counseling. And she was also being invited to speak at BYU. Jody also thought that she was getting revelations from God, from the Holy Spirit, and that she, was giving these advice because she was getting these messages from God. Her victim, I guess, came forward and talked about how she ruined his life and his marriage because she accused him of essaying children. She also abused her niece by putting them outside to sleep in a sleeping bag in freezing cold weather, and Jody would duct tape her niece's mouth shut. And apparently they used to go to church like that, and people would just look at the niece with duct tape around their mouth and would do nothing. The niece eventually ran away from Jody's house. And it was all because they weren't straight. So, after the counseling help that she got for her son, Ruby decided to, I guess, deepen the relationship. Because at this point, they were becoming best friends, I would say. And Ruby started getting marriage counseling from Jody and advice. Jody was, I think, attracted to the fame that came with being friends with Ruby. She saw all the views and money she was making from being online and the big platform that she had. And I think that she could get a lot of good opportunity from Ruby. And Ruby at the time, I think, was looking for somebody to say yes to all of her questionable parenting decisions. And it's a circular, I forgot the exact term, but she was just looking for a yes man to authorize everything that she did. So at 2020, Ruby started to pay Jody as her mentor, and they started making videos together. They started a channel called Moms of Truth, and they also changed 8 Passengers Instagram to Moms of Truth. On this channel, they would talk about parenting advice and said things like, you need to give the gift of truth to your children. If you're a kid, and then Ruby would make videos saying if your kid was on fire, you wouldn't say, okay, I'm gonna let you burn out on your own, let the fire go down on your own, and I'm gonna love you with your scars and everything. No, you're going to throw them on the ground. You would throw them on the ground and say, dear, hold still, I'm getting the fire out. She said these crazy things, and then she would say, like, you would beat the fire out. Ruby kept saying that she needed to save her kids, and you could tell that whatever Jody had been reinforcing in Ruby, that it was really working, because her whole channel became Moms of Truth, and she wasn't making any logical sense anymore. Not that she did in the beginning. She already had a very obscure view of the world, so when they got together, it was like the spark really caught on fire. So, fast forward to 2020, Jody moved in to Ruby's house, her family home. And this is when Jody really amped up the marriage advice that she was giving Ruby. At first, Ruby and Kevin were both really present with connections, and they were being the spokespeople and even the face of Jody's company. And Kevin was largely featured in videos where he was preaching the same teachings that Jody would, relay on him. But slowly his presence on the channel declined until Ruby said that he needed to move out of the house. Ruby later says that Jody was brainwashing her and convinced him to move out of the house, and Kevin said that he was gone from the home for 12 months. So for a year, he didn't have any contact with his children. He didn't check in on his children. He just was like, okay, I'm gonna move out. What kind of dad does this? And in the lead up to him moving out of the house, Ruby was making Kevin to go to men's groups, facilitated by her. And in these men's groups, they would tell him to repent, and he was like being downgraded and stuff. And she was saying to him, you need to better yourself, and that you need to move out and stay away, because clearly the bettering yourself wasn't working well enough. So for like 12 months he was away, and all this time Ruby doesn't call him or anything, come back, check on the kids, or he doesn't, at least for what I'm aware of, until the day that all of the secrets that Ruby had were unraveling. We are in 2023 now, in August. The two older kids at this point are moved out of the house because they're over 18. And so Ruby had the 4 children still with her, living with her. At some point, the 2 younger kids moved in with Jody, so they moved to Jody's house. And Jody's house was 4 hours away from Ruby's house. And they lived there under Jody's rules until 30 August 2023. On this day, a young boy aged 12 came to a neighbor's house and told the man to call the police. He had just escaped from Jody's house by climbing out of the basement window. He ran across the street to the neighbor and asked them for some food and water, and told son, who was 12, told the police that his sister was still inside of Jody's house. So the police sent the kid away to the hospital because he was covered in wounds, which also had cayenne pepper and honey on them, and then they were like duct tape or saran wrapped to the wounds. So his wounds needed immediate attention, and he also looked like he was tied up. They immediately called for a team to rescue his sister. They knock at Jody's door and she's very standoffish. She's like on the phone in the clip, and they arrest her, put her in handcuffs, and they go in there to find the other sibling. They found the little girl in a room by herself. Her head was shaved, and she sat there for hours, not saying a single word. Besides, when they offered her food, I think they gave her a pizza, she ate that. And at some point, after several hours had passed and the police officer was talking to her, trying to get her out of the room or to even say something, they finally got her out of the room. Jody was put under house arrest as the police, rescued the girl and searched the home. In Jody's house, they found ropes in the bedrooms and bathrooms, handcuffs to tie the kids up. They found a trampoline that she would use to punish the kids by making them jump an unreasonable amount of time. They found surgical sponges, other medical equipment. They found the cayenne pepper and honey that was used to smear all over the kids' wounds, and duct tape and saran wrap to wrap that all up. And they found a lot of food in the pantry, even though the kids looked very, very skinny and malnourished. The police then looked for the other two children that were underage, but they weren't in Jody's house. Earlier that day, when the boy finally got away from Jody's home, Ruby had actually made a phone call to her friend, who was friends with both Jody and Ruby because they were working in the same company connections together. Her friend's name is Pam Botcher, I think, and she called her and said that there is a family emergency, that she needs to take the girls. So she had two girls that were a bit older than the girl and the boy that was found in Jody's house. So Pam was like, what's going on? Ruby says there's a family emergency, can you take care of them for a bit? And Pam says, okay, I need someone to wash my floors anyway because I have a guest coming over. So the girls were at Pam's house when the police showed up, but they wouldn't, leave from the door. They wouldn't say anything, and when the police started asking them questions, they just were silent for hours again. And I think maybe an ambulance or something came and got them in the end. But from the conditioning that they had and the amount of trauma that they endured, and they just weren't saying anything, none of the kids, I guess, besides the boy. But yeah, and those two girls were made to wash the floors, I guess, by Pam. Those two girls were taken into state custody. When Ruby was arrested, she was very calm. her to the police car. She's not making any faces. She didn't ask how her kids were, because they're covered in injuries. She didn't ask anything about that. And in the initial questioning, she was not saying anything to the police. I guess she was waiting for her lawyer. But I did hear that she said at some point she was really angry and she was blaming her youngest son. Obviously, he managed to escape, so she is filled with rage about that because she's arrested because of that. And she was blaming her youngest son for sexually abusing his other sisters. The extent that this woman would go to get out of that. At their arrest, so at Jody and Ruby's arrest, the oldest daughter, Sherry, posted on Instagram saying, finally, the justice is being served after years of trying to get CPS involved. Both Jody and Ruby were charged with 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. They both pled guilty eventually, to all of the charges. Ruby actually made a plea deal. Her lawyers argued that she was systematically isolated from her extended family, children, and her husband because of Jody and her brainwashing. They also kept highlighting that she is really sorry and that she pled guilty immediately because she doesn't want to put the kids through anything again. Like, if she pled not guilty, for example, the kids would have to come to court and testify on the stand and recount what happened to them. And the lawyers were really trying to frame it as if it was all Jody's brainwashing that was the evil mastermind, essentially, that affected Ruby, and that had clouded her judgment. But when she was first arrested, she had, again, no reaction of remorse. She didn't ask if her kids were okay, and as part of the plea deal, she admitted to the following: wearing steel-toed boots, boots, and kicking her son while he was on the ground, holding his head underwater, essentially drowning, smothering him, his mouth and his nose, handcuffing both of the children, forcing them to do like physical labor tasks for a very long time, like carrying a box full of books up and down the stairs. She would make them do wall sits and push-ups, as mentioned before, and she would make them work outside in really hot weather, and when they would ask for water, she would refuse to give them water. They would not be wearing any shoes. And obviously there's other punishments which we mentioned in the beginning that she documented, like refusing to give food to them and isolating them from other people. prison, at which point they can ask for a possibility of parole. So at 18 months of their sentence, they can go up to the judge and say, "Can I have parole?" They are charged with a second-degree felony, and I heard people say at the top end they will be in prison for up to 4 years or 30 months. But I think the sentence can be up to 14 years, just depending on what the judge decides. But because, for example, Ruby didn't have any prior charges against her, she wasn't arrested before, didn't have any kind of criminal record, it's probably going to be on the shorter end of the sentencing. Ruby said that she was being brainwashed, that she thought that the kids were possessed, and that that it was Jodi's fault that she turned into this monster. In the statement that she made at the time of her sentencing while in court, she said that she was thankful that the police rescued her children when they did and arrested her, so no more harm could come to them. Meanwhile, Jodi said that she was happy that she is in prison and she can now go on to teach the gospel to even more people. She said that she's planning on preaching the gospel while she's in prison, so good luck to her. It's also theorized that because the reason why Ruby was so horrible to these children, like every time they were doing something fun, like, playing pranks or, using the iPad, some stupid little joke, it was something fun, that she would get irritated and pissed off about this and would want to punish them, or would actually go on to punish them, is because the way she grew up, she didn't have that experience. She was like very strict when she was growing up, and she was a parent role to her siblings, almost. When it comes to her husband Kevin, nothing happened to him, even though all those years he was there and he was okay with all the abuse that was happening. He filed for divorce from Ruby, and when the older sister Sherry took the 2 older kids into her custody, she came back to their family house to get their belongings. And when she did that, she accidentally got some of Kevin's stuff. Mind you, Kevin hasn't been at this house for months. So when Kevin goes to the house and finds out that somebody took his stuff, he calls the police and tries to get Sherry arrested because someone has burglarized my home and took my things. The police comes over and then they're like, "This is not a crime, it is her stuff." And she gave back the things that she accidentally took that were Kevin's. God forbid, because this is what you should be worrying about right now. So in terms of character, I don't think Kevin is a very nice person at all. Even though I feel like a lot of the news things that I saw don't mention anything about him, but he was there for years and years as these kids were growing up and not saying anything, and he is also homophobic and believes in, sending your kids to wilderness camps and disciplining them. So, is there anything else about this? At the end of the day, what happened to the children is the 2 oldest ones that were underage at this time, Sherry took custody over them, and the 2 young kids are actually in foster care now. And Kevin and Sherry both are separately trying to get custody of the 2 younger kids. I feel like it's not going to happen because Sherry has already 2 kids that she needs to take care of, and she is, relatively really young, and unfortunately in foster care, and hopefully they end up somewhere where they're actually going to be cared for the way that they deserve it and loved for in a normal way, in a caring way. But yeah, this is the end of this unfortunate story. Who knows what's going to happen with their times in prison, if they're gonna stay the full 14 years, or they're gonna be released to parole at 18, or who knows. But so far they are in prison and serving their time. And I just hope that when people are reporting these blatant cases of abuse that are being documented, and there is so much blatant evidence of it on YouTube in the form of like daily vlogs even, when the abuser is like talking about the punishments, that this is being taken seriously. And this is something that needs to be developed as a part of, the wider internet, the way that the internet like affects our lives. This needs to be like worked into the laws, and I guess this is one of the facets of that. But I think, it was good that she documented everything. Didn't work out for her, but it worked out for the kids. And the channel has been taken down from what I'm aware of. I've never watched this. I'm not interested in family channels. Why would I watch children? What you can do parenting videos. An adult can give parenting advice videos. But why would you vlog your entire life with children in such detail, especially? Baffles me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give a like if you liked it, and comment down below your opinions. If you have a case that you want me to cover next that is similar, do let me know. Maybe I'll do it. Okay. I'll see you guys on next time. I hope your week goes very well, and that you're happy